really is a joy to be back, to be here for this 150th, for the kickoff 150th anniversary celebration.
It was March 31st at the 2017 Diocesan Convention. There was a very special guest, the 27th presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church.
We welcome our presiding bishop, the Most Reverend Michael Bruce Curry.
This wasn't just an ordinary convention, it was also for the community. Bishop Hayashi and the presiding bishop were joined by Bishop Oscar Solis of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Salt Lake City and Elder Ronald A. Raspan of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the LDS Church.
To be here with ecumenical and interfaith brothers and sisters as a sign and a witness to the remarkable way that the community of faith here bears witness to the love of God.
With those words from our presiding bishop, the 150th celebration was really here. The state took note with a proclamation. Governor Gary Herbert declared, "We are fortunate to have this body of faith in our great state, as well as the messages of unity and peace shared by its presiding bishop and members." We had some generous news reports. The Deseret News highlighted the presiding bishop's visit with a front-page selfie. And the Salt Lake Tribune called attention to our trailblazer legacy. It was our moment to enjoy, with a performance by the children's choir from the Sudanese congregation at All Saints. A moment for the 22 different congregations from across the 87,000 square miles of the diocese to be as one. A moment to reflect and to continue the Lord's work in the key of G. The co-chair of the 150th Task Force, the Reverend Terry Hayduck, has been in it from the beginning.
So it was very exciting when the bishop's task to us was find out who we are, what God is calling us to do, both now and in the years to come.
Just as Bishop Daniel Tuttle began God's work here with a hospital for minors, schools where there were none, and even Mount Olivet Cemetery, a place where non-Mormons could be buried, his mission was to reach out to those in the shadows, those without a voice. Tuttle's ministry is the foundation for ours today. Bishop Hayashi, the 11th bishop, found inspiration from the first bishop, Daniel Tuttle, as we studied our past 150 years.
So I take from him inspiration to trust in God, to trust in the hearts of the people of the Diocese of Utah, and to continue to fare forward into places that need the presence of the church.
Now today that means places such as the Salt Lake City Pride Parade, where we were the largest group of folks from a faith community. The turnout was repeated in pride parades throughout the state. Bishop Hayashi marched with a thurible to show that we welcome and pray for all. We were present at the legislature lobbying for social justice with the Crossroads Urban Center, at rallies for social justice continuing several years of immigration advocacy, promoting the reduction of gun violence at a vigil remembering the 10th anniversary of the Trolley Square shootings, and joining a worldwide protest for women's rights. We built on diocesan-wide ministries to advocate for those in need through the Super Bowl of Caring In 2017 and 2018, it became a new tradition, a tradition of ministry with the heritage of the past. So it was continuing the social justice that Bishop Tuttle started, and it was having some fun too. So it has been a year of fun, and you can't have fun without swag. So our 150th task force made sure we had hats, bags, mints, Post-its, even napkins and cups with a 150th logo. Oh, it was an impressive logo, designed by Michael Tabor of Grace Church in St. George. Now, everyone got a pin, and every church got a banner, and we celebrated in 4 languages: English, Spanish, Dinka-Boer, and Ute. People hung their banners with pride to honor our rich heritage. Bishop Hayashi says it's simply who we are. It was his moment to give a sermon from the diocese's oldest church, the Cathedral Church of St. Mark, just a block away from where Bishop Tuttle arrived in Salt Lake City 150 years prior to the day.
Yes, we celebrate what has been done by our forebears and dedicate ourselves as witnesses to truth and goodness to our time, to God's place in the world in our time.
Well, we all celebrated on July 2nd, or thereabouts, which is, of course, the actual day Bishop Tuttle arrived in Salt Lake City. Now, that's not to be confused with July 2nd, the actual day the Reverend Lee Montgomery, as Bishop Tuttle, arrived in Cedar City. He and the stage and a team of horses.
Greetings, greetings, my fellow Episcopalians! My thanks to you, my friends, for this warm welcome, and for those of you who have gathered here to greet me on my arrival from Denver. I'm pleased to finally be among you, and I am especially pleased by the warm welcome that you have shown me. Perhaps just a bit too warm.
Although we celebrated those hot July days in different places. Our churches and parish halls. And in the canyons. We were all one in celebrating.
Happy birthday, dear Church! Happy birthday to you! Huzzah!
And we were all one when it came to cake. It seems all of our churches had 150th cakes. All Saints had a cake. The diocesan staff had a cake. And Grace. And St. Francis in Moab. St. John's in Logan. St. Jude's in Cedar City. St. Mary's in Provo. St. Paul's. Last but not least, St. James. Oh, there were more, but some had their cake and ate it too fast before we could get a photo. Well, we celebrated the great day with our congregational families, and then it was time to look down the street and across the state and join other Episcopalians, all celebrating the same thing. The regional celebrations were a great success, with people from all over coming together for food, music,
It's true with me.
games, and fellowship. And of course, some Wild West fun. And while we all did have fun, Bishop Hayashi reminds us there was a purpose behind these gatherings.
The importance that we had in the social gatherings was, very simply, that we believe it's worth knowing one another. And that when we get together, there's a certain synergy that takes place amongst the people. A certain excitement builds as they meet one another and are able to learn about the ministries that they all do in their congregational settings.
The celebrations were a reminder of all that we do in our communities. The Northern Regional Celebration was held at Youth Impact, and we could reflect on the work of the late director of Youth Impact, Rob Hall. Bishop Hayashi recognizes the influence the program has had on the Ogden community.
Certainly in the 25 years that it has been working and doing its ministry, it's accomplished many amazing things. The grade point average of youth who go through Youth Impact, and let me state that the participants in Youth Impact come from some of the most financially challenged families in the state of Utah. The average GPA for Youth Impact participants is 3.85. The average GPA for students in the Ogden School District's program is about 2.87. Youth Impact has had a huge influence upon its participants.
We recalled our own Episcopal pioneers at the Southeastern Regional Celebration in Moab at St. Francis. There, the senior warden, Reb Fleming, got the party started.
This party would not be this party without you here. Because that pretty much sums up the magic of St. Francis and this Moab church, is each one of you being here.
Well, we shared our stories and we met folks we never knew were beside us in doing the Lord's work. And how did we do all this? Well, it was with the help of the 150th Task Force, made up of folks from all over the diocese.
The bishop called a task force together that was representative of the whole diocese, both in size and scope of congregation, whether it was a parish or a congregation, in age, whether it was one of our retired folks or someone who was in her 30s, people who came from different lifestyles in light of their own work.
And why did we do it? It was to get to know our past, our present, and our future.
I baptize in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. 150 years is quite a long time. And although the culture has changed, and although the challenges that we face are vastly different than the challenges that Bishop Tuttle encountered and the church encountered then, in some ways we are the same because the mission remains the same.
In the unity of the Holy Ghost, all honor and glory be unto thee, O Father Almighty.
The mission is to do God's work in Utah and northern Arizona, which includes being a voice for social justice in the community. We're working for change in all areas, such as getting Medicaid expansion on the ballot.
I am one of the 5 sponsors of the ballot initiative for the Medicaid expansion. And I'm gratified that most of our congregations in the Diocese of Utah took a packet in order to gather signatures in order to get that onto the ballot.
We are working for change to support local ministries that give hope and a second chance to community members who need it. A new project is the Flourish Bakery, a ministry that drew the attention of the Reverend Terry Hayduck.
The work of other clergy, the Reverend Amy Altizer and our deacon, Sandra, out in the community really creating new opportunities for people who are coming out of incarceration, to give them life training, but also to give them jobs.
So what did we learn from the 150th? To relive our heritage and to know that those who came before us were just like us, Episcopalians. We learned what they did and who they were. Russ Pack from St. Paul's and Nancy Tanner from St. James were very involved in the planning and celebration of the 150th. Russ summed it up.
They tell a story of who we are as Episcopalians today, and I'm hoping that, again, 100 years from now, they'll tell other folks who we were as Episcopalians, and they'll feel the same sense that we do now.
Our pioneers made a lot happen. But a lot more needs to happen as we continue the Lord's work.
We are here, you and I, in this place and in this time. We did not choose the time. God chose it for us. God must believe that we are needed in this new day.
As Bishop Hayashi proclaimed, God needs us today, here. And we end where it started, on a wonderful spring day with a beloved presiding bishop. Thanks be to God.
Because the truth is, this time is a time that needs us and the witness of people of faith that there is a God who is the creator of us all, and that if we all have the same creator, we are intrinsically related to each other. We are brothers and sisters